Okay, I'm finally going to talk about one of my favorite shows of all time. I believe this is the best horror show of all time, that's for sure. It's also my favorite Netflix show they have ever done. That's saying a lot because Stranger Things is great, but I will hold true that Stranger Things has gone downhill. Well, the last season was good. Season 1, the last season, got a bit weird in the middle. But anyway, I digress. Haunting of Hill House. One of the best horror shows, if not, it is the best horror show of all time. I'm finally going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you why it's the best show, and if you have not watched it, why you need to watch it. Because let me tell you, I am the most annoying person when it comes to the show, and I'll make everyone I know watch it, and I'll sit there as they watch it, and I'll watch them watch it, and if they're not paying attention, oh my god, you'll bet I'll pause the TV and ask them what the hell they're doing, why they're looking anywhere but at Theo Crane, aka Kate Siegel, aka Mike Flanagan's wife. She's literally a goddess. She's perfect, and he puts her in everything he does, and I love it. Okay, so Hill House, it came out in 2018. It was a Netflix miniseries, and it was created by Mike Flanagan. He did, prior to Hill House, he had just done, what was that film? The one, she's in the woods, it's Kate Siegel again, she's deaf, and an intruder is trying to get in her house. Oh my god, what is that called? Hush? Hush. Hush. It's called Hush. Great film. That's on Netflix too. And he also did Oculus, which I need to rewatch because I actually don't know if I liked that very much when I first saw it, but I need to return to it. Since then, he's done amazing things like Bly Manor, Haunting of Bly Manor. He did Midnight Mass. He did that other one, Midnight Club or Midnight Society. Didn't like that one. He also did The Fall of the House of Usher. That one was great. Let's just focus on Hill House. It has one of the highest ratings of a Netflix show on IMDb. I think it's at 8.6 out of 10, but I know some of the individual episodes are much higher than that. The premise follows the Crane family. It's a non-linear story. It follows them in the past and in the present. Essentially, what happens is the Crane family is comprised of the parents, Olivia Crane and Hugh Crane, and then their children. It is Stephen, Shirley, Theodora, aka Theo, and Nell and Luke, who are twins. When they were younger, they lived in a place called Hill House, which is a very creepy, haunted manor in the middle of nowhere. And while they were in that house, they had some really awful experiences. And that did give them lasting trauma into their adult life, which is the secondary timeline that we follow. It's each one of the siblings living their adult life and the trauma that they're now struggling with every single day. What we know about the house from the beginning is that it definitely houses a lot of spirits. The house in itself is a character, essentially. It feeds on the family, and like I said, it houses spirits, both good and bad, who are trying to lure the family into it as well. So each episode focuses on one of the siblings. We kickstart with Stephen. I hate Stephen. Stephen's a real asshole, and that opinion never changes for the whole show. And I think that's the consensus everyone has, is we hate Stephen. That's fine. He's a Hill House denier. He believes nothing happened. Everything comes down to mental illness. And he ends up writing a book called Hill House that profits off of what his siblings experienced. Okay, so from the get-go, we know that the family had to flee the house because of an event that took place in the house on their final night. What we know is the mother got left inside the house and the dad took the kids somewhere else. The kids end up staying with their Aunt Janet and they're raised with her. We don't know what happens to the mum until later, but what we know is people were in the Red Room. It's referenced right from the get-go that Nell and Luke were in the Red Room with the mother with Abigail. Now, Abigail will become important later on. Again, this is going to have some spoilers. I don't want to ruin it too much for those who haven't seen it. The show in itself is just a core family drama. The characters are so complex, it's very relatable. Each character, it's not really a spoiler because Mike Flanagan ended up confirming this, each character represents the 5 stages of grief. So what we know is the mother has died in the house. How she died, we don't know. It's kind of hinted to throughout. Maybe the dad had something to do with it. Maybe it was the house that took her. We really don't know what happened. So the kids represent the 5 stages of grief. We have Stephen, he is denial. So Stephen essentially denies that anything took place that was paranormal. He believes everything, like I said, was mental illness. The mum had mental illness. And that is what happened on that final night was he believes the mum went crazy. Shirley is anger. She essentially becomes the matriarch of the family after the passing of her mother. She's trying to keep the family together, but she is also so resentful towards a lot of people in her family. Stephen, who profits off of the family with the book he writes, even though he didn't experience a lot of it, and to Luke as well, which we'll get to in a minute, because he has addiction and she has to pay for a lot of his rehab. And then she has resentment towards Nell, which we'll get to later. Theo is bargaining. She is someone that builds up her walls. She is what we know to be sensitive. When she touches someone, she can feel their emotions and can gain some of their knowledge. So she ends up becoming a psychologist. So she can help people, and when she helps them, she touches them, she can tell what's actually going on with them. But Theo, even though she's so closed off, she is always trying to yearn for a connection with someone, a real connection. Luke is depression. After growing up in Hill House, he descends into darkness. He becomes an addict. He has to go to rehab. He's so close with Nell, his twin, but his addiction is what puts a wedge between them. And then Nell is acceptance. So Nell has the most difficult journey in the family. She experienced the most alongside Luke when they were younger inside the house. So they know the truth of what was in there. They were in the red room on the final night with the mother before she passed. They essentially went through hell. After Olivia, the mother, passes and Luke becomes an addict, Nell is very lost. But she does get married. She finds a husband. He's great. He helps her so much. He's a sleep doctor because she struggles to sleep because she is constantly battling with what we know to be the bent neck lady. The bent neck lady has been haunting Nell ever since she was a kid inside of the house. Essentially, a lady with a bent neck, always showing up out of nowhere, absolutely terrifying. So her husband helps her with this, but then he passes away. We don't know if this is actually a condition he had or if it was the house that did this. He wasn't in the house, but it could have been the house. So Nell becomes lost. She becomes very depressed, and she essentially goes into the house. Spoiler ahead if you don't want to hear this part, so skip 1 minute. Nell ends up passing away in the house via a rope, but it wasn't really her choice. She sees her mother in the house. The mother puts a necklace around her neck. It wasn't a necklace though, it was a rope. And then we learn that Nell was the bent neck lady all along, and that her visions of the bent neck lady were that it was visions. It was her in the future trying to warn her of what was coming. Anyway, Nell is acceptance in the 5 stages of grief. She battles with the most, but by the end of it, and especially by the final episode, she is accepting of her fate and even forgiving all her siblings because they had a habit of really brushing her aside, which was really sad. She tries to call Stephen, he doesn't pick up. She tries to call Shirley, she doesn't pick up. She fights with Theo, and obviously Luke, who is her twin, who she's closest with, is an addict. The saddest thing about Nell's story is that she just wants to be loved and she wants to find peace in her life, and we think she has it for a moment with her husband. What was his name? Arthur. That was it. That was his name. And he was so sweet, but her demise is truly the most painful because we get to experience her wedding and her falling in love. The montages in the show are so excellent. So by the time he passes away and she goes back to the house to confront her past, she starts to have visions again of her past. She thinks she's dancing with Arthur around the house, but really she's just by herself in the darkness. The house can manipulate itself and change how it appears to trick the family and feed on their weaknesses. Now, the show is a slow burn, but it pays off in the end. The slow burn is actually necessary because we become so connected to every single one of these characters. Even though we hate Steve, we still care what happens to him in the end, even though he is an absolute We get to know them on such a deep level. I felt like I was in this family, and every experience they had was so impactful. There was one episode, I think it was episode 5. I want to say it was episode 5. It all takes place in a funeral home, and the cinematography in this episode is insane. It's all one shot for the large majority of it. But this is the first episode that we get to experience everyone in the family together and them trying to come to terms with what happened in their past, and them facing each other, because the problem they all faced is they were all battling with one another about what was real and what wasn't. Stephen obviously denying that anyone experienced anything and that everything was mental illness, including the mother and Nell. Shirley is so type A. She's just frustrated at everyone. Theo is drinking her sorrows away. And then obviously Luke, everyone's mean to him because he's an addict, but he is recovering at this point. He hasn't relapsed, although everyone thinks he has. But that is the house, and that is the loss of Nell. Had such a physical impact on him. It made it seem like he was on drugs. It was crazy. The last episode of the TV show might be one of the best episodes of a show I've ever watched. We finally get everything wrapped up neatly as to what actually happened on the final night they leave, because it's teased in the first episode and then teased throughout about what actually happened and what happened to the mother. But in the final episode, we get that all packaged up, and we get to experience what is the Red Room. The Red Room is essentially a room throughout the whole show that is locked. We can never go in. It's just a big door. They're trying to unlock it, but we can't get in. But we know, I believe it's the second to last episode, it ends with the door open and the dad running in because the kids are in there with the mother. We do learn that the Red Room was open the whole time and the house was just tricking the family. It manipulated itself to be whatever the people needed at that time. So at times it was Stephen's game room, it was Shirley's reading room, it was Luke's treehouse, it was Theo's dance studio, and it was Nell's... What was Nell's room? No, I know everyone but Nell. Poor Nell. Oh, she goes through so much. I can't even remember what the room was for her. Tea room? I don't know. Anyway, we finally get the closure with the Red Room. So we know on the final night the door was open. The mother took Nell in with Luke and Abigail. Abigail was the daughter of the housekeepers, essentially, the Dudleys. But that is only revealed towards the end. We actually don't know if Abigail's real throughout. We actually think she was a ghost. But all we know is that Luke plays with her and he sees her. But no one can really confirm if Abigail exists or not. We do learn, though, in the final episode that she did. And something happens inside the Red Room and she is no longer with us anymore. But the last episode really shows us how powerful the house is and how it can feed on the family and take their souls. Essentially, the house, like I said, is a living entity and it needs sustenance and it gets it through people. And what we learn is if you pass away in Hill House, your soul and your ghost is tethered to the house. So if you die in the house, you will live on in the house. So in the final episode, again, spoiler, everyone's reunited. We're in the Red Room, Nell's back. And everyone's together finally. We see her ghost. She kind of sums it up really nicely. She forgives all her siblings for what happened and how they really brushed her off. She said, it wouldn't have changed anything. I need you to know that. Even if things had been different, she was always going to die inside that house. It was kind of written in the stars. And that's kind of funny, actually, now that I've said it like that. She had a cup of stars. I don't think that links. I'm just drawing parallels over nothing. They all forgive each other in the Red Room, and then we see the mum. The dad is reunited with the mum. Leading up to this, he's been haunted by her ghost the whole time. He can't move past it. That was the love of his life. So in the final moments, he takes his own life so he can be with his wife and his daughter, because like I said, if you die in the house, you become tethered to it. He has a great quote that he says to Olivia when they're reunited. He says, I would have followed you right into the darkness. And that he does. He does follow her into the darkness and he stays with her. It's so sweet. And that's what happens with the Dudleys right at the end. In the closing or the ending montage, Mr. Dudley carries his wife's body into the house so they could be reunited with Abigail and that she can live on in the house with her child. And it is very, very moving. For a show that is so scary, the emotion is sometimes unbearable. Like, you become so connected to every single person that in that closing montage, I was sobbing like a baby. It was very, very moving. Outside of this just being an overall amazingly written show and some of the best characters in TV history, it also has an incredible soundtrack and score. I've actually learned, because I was putting together a little list of my favorite movies, everything that I love when it comes to movies and TVs has to have a great score or a great soundtrack, because music really ties everything together. You remove some of this music, it doesn't pack a punch as well. I mean, this show is still incredible, but the opening and closing with Steve's voiceover talking about the house and how, what is the quote? Oh my God. Whoever walks there walks alone, and whoever walks there walks together. That's the parallel between the first and last episode. While he's doing this voiceover, it's a song by Gregory Alan Isakov, which is one of my favorite songs. If I'm going, I'm gone, or something like that. Oh my God, it makes it so much better, honestly. The show also has some genuine scares and no cheap thrills, which I really appreciate. There's lots of hidden ghosts, but not in a way that's like cheap. It's the hidden ghosts are actually terrifying. All we know is that there's always darkness lurking. And, you know, there's even moments where the statues in the house just move. But it's tricking your own brain, which is why this is such a good psychological show too, because it's never commented on. You just see that something's wrong and you don't know if you've seen that or if that's actually intentional. And I think that's so smart about the show that it does that, because you start to doubt yourself and question what is real and what's not. And also because the show has such an unreliable narrator, like the whole time the kids only have bits and pieces of information. We're learning it along with them, so you never know what's real, what's not, and we learn it all together at the end, which is so great. Also, some of the best actual jump scares are in this show, especially one, I think it's the final episode or the second to last episode, where Theo and Shirley are in a car and Nell's head pops forward. Oh my God, I think that gave a lot of people a heart attack. Absolutely terrifying. The floating man in the house, unreal. Let me know in the comments if you've watched Hill House and what the best TV show you've watched is. I'm always looking for new shows. Also, click on the end screen here if you want to watch my ranking of horror movies based on how much trauma they gave me. I've learned that it's not that much trauma, to be honest. Also, let me know if you want me to rank Mike Flanagan shows and movies in the future. I want to do more tier list style videos. I was enjoying that a lot. He's done a lot, and he also did Dr. Sleep, starring Rebecca Ferguson. I just have to say her name because I've just gone a whole video without saying her name, and that felt wrong on so many levels. So, all is right in the world now that I've said her name, Rebecca Ferguson. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Sorry, I'm just like now seeing what I look like. It is what it is. I'll be fine, right? I mean, it's too late. If you're watching this, it's already filmed, and this is how I look, and we just have to roll with it. Okay, I think we just have to roll with it. Whew. Okay, hold on. I feel like my hair is really annoying. And the lighting's a bit weird. Is everything a bit off? I can't tell. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. I'm in deep. This f***ing train, man. Let me know if this is just utter shit and that I should refilm, because my brain's just all over the place.